Hello, and welcome to the Vibrant Health Show. I'm going to get everyone tagged in here. We'll get started. Today, we are talking about seasonal allergies. So this week alone, I probably had 5 or 6 people reach out and just be like, my allergies are killing me. What do I do? So I figured it was the perfect topic to talk about because we are there. It is that season, right? Things are blooming. It's beautiful, but it can wreak havoc on some of our immune systems. So I want to talk a little bit about what creates an allergy response to begin with, and then some natural solutions for things you can do to ease your allergies through these different seasons that are helpful for both adults, and some tips for kids as well. So if you are an allergy sufferer or your kids are, definitely take notes, listen up. This is going to be super helpful. So let's talk first about allergies. In essence, allergies have one root cause. It is an inflammatory response of the immune system, right? Something creating more inflammation that triggers an immune system response. Now, we love to blame the things we're allergic to, right? The trees, the grass, the pollen, the whatever, things that we're allergic to. However, the severity of your allergy reaction typically depends on how inflamed your body is to begin with, and then you get exposure to these other environmental things and it throws you over the edge. So the real way to calm an allergy response is to keep inflammation as low as possible all year round, and then really support the 2 things we're going to talk about today, the types of immune and inflammatory response that an allergy makes, supporting those pieces of your immune system through the spring, through the fall, the times when we tend to have more allergies, to keep that response quieter, right? Because it's the big response from the immune system that cause the symptoms, the runny nose, the itchy eyes. For some people, it's a skin breakout, the drainage, the cough, the persistent cough. Those are all just big reactions from the immune system. If we can keep the reaction calmer, the symptoms are also calmer, and people find a lot of great relief for seasonal allergies by addressing the things that we're going to talk about today. So remembering, really it's inflammation at the root. But when it comes to allergies, there's specific types of inflammation. So we're going to want to choose things that will help those particular parts of the immune system in order to keep our allergies nice and calm, because there's nothing worse than having a major allergic reaction when you want to be outside. It's nice, you want to go out, and then you feel like crap. That's not fun for anybody. For me, my typical allergy response, if I get them, my eyes will water. I mean, just like pour like I'm crying for no reason. So then they're puffy and they're itchy and they bother me. And there is nothing that annoys me more than when my eyes hurt. That's like, oh, such an annoying symptom. So I totally understand. But when I do the things I'm going to teach you guys today, I really tend not to have those responses anymore, or they're much more mild if I preventatively, right, take care of my immune system before being exposed to my allergens. So I'm going to take you through the things I personally do for myself and for my kids, and that you can implement those as well. Okay, so let's talk first about, there are 3 main ways that we want to reduce our inflammatory load for allergens first. The first one I talk about every time because there's just no way around it. We have to reduce inflammation through food, right? If we are not in control of the things that we're exposed to environmentally, then I think that's the difference, right? Is there's some things that you can't not be around trees or not be around pollen. You're going to be exposed to these things. You're not in control of completely eradicating them, but you are in control of the inflammation you're getting from food, from beverages, from the products that you're using. The more of those things that you minimize, your immune system is going to have more capacity to properly deal with the exposure to an allergen, right? Remember, it's the bucket effect. If we have every one of our cells as a little bucket, hopefully you've heard this before, but I'm going to tell you again, every cell is a bucket, and it only has so much capacity before it overflows. And the overflow is what causes symptoms, any symptoms. But for example, if you have your cell and your bucket is full of inflammatory food, and then maybe you're still a soda drinker, or maybe you do energy drinks, or maybe you're using toxic products, maybe you're still using, chemical cleaners, maybe you're spraying your yard with pesticides that are still full of chemicals, that fills up and fills up and fills up and fills up and fills up your bucket. And then you go outside and you're exposed to the trees, the pollen, the whatever, and then it fills your bucket up a little bit more. But because it was already too full, you're spilling over into symptoms. With all symptoms, right? Whether it's pain, whether it's headaches, whether it's allergies, the emptier your bucket is to begin with, which means the healthier you are, right? Physically, the healthier you are to begin with, the less symptoms you are going to get from those exposures. So let's talk about how we empty those buckets. Food is a big one. be simple with it, right? What are the main things you can start avoiding in your nutrition to help reduce your inflammation? Number one, my number one thing I believe everybody should avoid is gluten. It is very inflammatory, and a lot of people have low-grade allergic reactions to gluten that you might not even feel when you eat it primarily. So it's one of the foods I fully believe across the board, most people, not most people, everybody should avoid. There really is no circumstance where, especially like American gluten or North American gluten, is not a health food for anybody, period. So if you have not gone gluten-free yet, highly recommend you start there. And then reducing the amount of toxins and chemicals in your food. If you're not being vigilant about food dyes and colors and artificial sweeteners, those are things that really put a tremendous burden on your immune system and create inflammation. So being able to reduce those as well, and those are simple, right? There's so many more layers you could go to. If you're part of the spring challenge right now, we're doing a deep dive for 21 days into an anti-inflammatory food plan. If you go and search previous episodes of the Vibrant Health Show, I have multiple episodes about what an anti-inflammatory diet should look like, what is the best nutrition plan to follow on an ongoing basis. So there's tons of extra resources. I just want you remembering your food choices are not separate from your allergy symptoms, right? If we can reduce inflammation, it's going to help those symptoms. Don't forget that piece of the puzzle, because I'm going to teach you great herbs. I'm going to teach you things that are helpful for allergies. But if you're constantly creating inflammation, no amount of herb supplement, tip or trick that you're going to do is going to fully eradicate those symptoms if we're constantly inflamed. So don't forget that food is always foundational. And then you get to add these other fun things that we're going to talk about. But food first, and go back if you need more information about what an anti-inflammatory diet looks like. Go back and find those resources. I have tons of them on all of these videos. So food's number one, don't forget that. Number two, making sure that you have good filtration in your air in your house, because you're not, again, in control of the external environment, but you are in control of your internal environment. And if you can minimize the amount of time you're being exposed to these allergens, you're less exposed indoors than you are outdoors, it's going to help give your body and your immune system time to recover so it won't have as big of a response. Remember, those things from outside get inside, right? The pollens come in through the windows, through the doors, you're tracking it in your clothes, you're bringing these allergens into your environment. We really want to make sure that we have a good filtration system, a good air filter. I like Air Doctor. I'll post some links here for you guys if you are looking to get a new air filter. I like the Air Doctor because it does so many different things. It gets all the really tiny particles, so it's great for mold. It's great for allergens. It helps detox bacteria and viruses. It really is. Within like 45 minutes, you get an entire new air system in your room. It cleans out all the old air and replaces it with new in a very short amount of time. And since implementing that, my son in particular used to have really bad allergies. And since putting one in his room, I've seen a tremendous difference. It just gives his body the time while he sleeps to be free of allergens and free of other things that are irritating his body. And he wakes up not stuffy, not congested. Huge difference since putting it directly in his room, right? We've always had one in the house, but when I really made sure his environment was a whole lot cleaner, I saw a very big difference in how he was able to respond to those allergens. So air filtration in the home is crucial. You have to take control over the things we have control over, because we can't filter all the outdoor air. I wish we could, but we can't yet. Maybe one day that will be doable. So take control of the things you can, which is your internal air quality. If you do not have a good air filter in your house, make that a priority. Maybe you save up for it, put it on your wish list, ask for it for your birthday. I highly believe it's something that is necessary in every home, because unfortunately, almost everything we have in our houses, our furniture, our clothes, our bedding, all of these things are containing toxins that are creating inflammation. So be in control of your internal air quality, really good air filter system. The Air Doctor is the one we use, and I'll put those links here for you guys. And then let's talk about different types of herbs and what they do. What I really want to teach you guys today is why some of these things work, right? How they're helping your immune system. I think instead of just taking things, it's really important you understand, at least at a base level, how they're impacting your body, what benefit they're having, and why these are things that have been used for centuries through Chinese medicine and naturalists and herbalists to really help with allergies. And they're really effective. Some of the ones I'm going to mention today, the research shows that they can be as effective as an over-the-counter allergy medication if used consistently and taken for the right reasons. So herbs are very helpful. There's some things that will actually help reduce your symptoms when you're in an allergy flare, but I always prefer to do it preventatively. So through allergy season, I do take a couple of these pretty much every day. I want to make sure that I'm giving my body that inflammatory response. So we'll talk through that today. Which ones are better for long-term? Which ones could you do more short-term kind of mega dosing? They each have some different benefits. So this is where if you are a note taker, you might want to start taking some notes. I'm going to throw a lot of information your way. Let's start with the simplest. I say simplest because it's something that I think everybody needs to be aware of. One of the things that has been really shown through research is that people with higher vitamin D levels have lower instance of allergic reaction, right? So vitamin D, we talk about all the time. There's so many beautiful benefits, but statistically through the research, they say 50, a blood level of 50 for your vitamin D or above. Holistically, we say 60 to 80, but most of the research shows 50 or above reduces your symptoms of allergies by almost half. Like just having a good vitamin D level makes a very big difference. So number one, check your vitamin D levels. Do you know what it is? And really aiming to get that number to about 60 will help reduce your body's response to those allergies. That is a good prevention mechanism, right? You should be thinking about that all winter long. You should be, if you need to supplement with vitamin D, you should be taking your vitamin D levels. You should know what that is. In preparation for the spring, you already want to have your D levels nice and strong because you're going to go into the spring with less reaction if you're ready for it. So that for me is prevention. That's, I test my vitamin D levels twice a year. I usually like to do it once in the fall, once in the spring. So I know what kind of support I need through winter and through allergy season, and really aiming for that 60 to 80 to be the number, even though the ranges say 30 is adequate. It is not. 30 is adequate to not get scurvy, which is not things that we're worried about anymore, to get like bone weakening, but we need more than that to get the benefit, the health benefit, 60 to 80. So know your vitamin D levels and optimize your vitamin D levels. And that's true for kids as well, right? Even you might not want to blood test your kids depending on what their ages are, but just a good consistent vitamin D supplementation through the winter to make sure they're not going into the spring deficient. Super important. The next one is probably my favorite supplement for allergies and histamine response in general. It's quercetin. Quercetin is another one of those herbs that's really highly researched. There's actually a lot of documentation behind how effective quercetin is, specifically for histamine release. So when it comes to allergies, the inflammation creates two responses in the body. One of them is a massive release of histamine. That's where a lot of our allergy symptoms come from, is the histamines. So we want to choose agents, herbs, supplements that help calm a histamine response. And quercetin is fantastic for that. It not only calms histamine, it's anti-inflammatory. It actually helps protect your gut lining, which we'll talk about in a second. Like gut health and allergies are highly linked. So with quercetin, you're taking one thing, but you're getting multiple benefits. And I'm always a fan of that too, right? If it can do more things. And it's actually been shown in scientific studies that when the cell starts to release histamine and you take quercetin, it shuts down the release of that histamine, which is what we want. It can actually dampen the cell from releasing more of these inflammatory histamines. So it's effective as prevention, but quercetin is also effective in an actual allergy flare, because if your cells are releasing a bunch of histamine, it's making you feel terrible, your nose is running, you're coughing, and you take quercetin, it's going to stop that immediate release. And ultimately, that's what we want, right? That's what helps symptoms. So quercetin is good for prevention. I'll tell you a couple of things that I usually blend together for prevention, and then also better on its own in higher doses if you're having an allergic episode, right? If you're feeling those symptoms pretty heavily. So quercetin, I would put that very high on my list. That's probably my number one thing that I recommend across the board for most people because it has so many different benefits and tons of studies to back it up. Number two, and I actually like to blend these together, is nettles. Sometimes you'll see stinging nettles, sometimes it will just say nettles, but nettles are amazing for immune response. And this is the one that's actually been shown to be as effective for most people as an over-the-counter antihistamine. So 1 in 2 people preferred the response from taking Nettles over taking like an antihistamine medication. So it's highly effective. Again, in prevention, you can take it long-term through the spring to keep your immune system strong, and then take larger doses if you're having a couple of days where you are feeling an actual allergy, freak out is what I call them, the allergy freak out. But quercetin and Nettles combined is a really effective combination of things to help calm allergy symptoms. Both well-researched, both very well tolerated, pretty good to take for just about anyone across the board. Even kids can take those, right? There's liquid versions of quercetin. If you're looking for things that are easier to give to children, both of those are fantastic. So quercetin and Nettles, top of my list. The next one we're going to talk about is we're going to move from histamine to a little more of the inflammatory response. So remember I said there's kind of 2 ways that allergies affect your immune system. One is the release of histamines, and the other is called eosinophils. It's a part of your immune system. It's a subset of your white blood cells. And eosinophils are the type of immune response that creates allergies or that are stimulated from an allergic reaction, whether it's from food, a food allergy can do this, or an environmental allergy or chemical allergies can get this eosinophil reaction in the body. That one is very inflammatory, kind of stimulated. So the next couple of herbs that we're going to talk about help calm the inflammatory response to protect the immune reaction. So quercetin and Nettles, wonderful for histamines. The next couple are really helping that immune system piece, the eosinophil piece. So ideally, you want to kind of blend the 2, right? Because you're never positive. Each person's a little bit different. Which subset of your immune system is creating your major reaction? And for most people, it's both. It's usually histamines and eosinophils that are creating the reaction. So if you can support both of them, you're ultimately going to get the best result at the end of the day. So the next ones are more eosinophil inflammatory related. Can't talk about inflammation without talking about tried and true turmeric, right? It's just such a good herb across the board for inflammation. I feel like that's pretty well known, very well researched, but there are some really cool, just different things that turmeric can do in your body. One of the things I really like about turmeric or curcumin in particular is that it doesn't get absorbed very quickly in the gut, which is actually a good thing. That means it hangs around longer in the gut to release its anti-inflammatory properties. So you actually get better results because it's not really easily absorbed. Now, there are certain things that we want the opposite, right? We want our B vitamins to absorb properly. We want other things to absorb quickly. But when it comes to anti-inflammatory agents, we actually want them to hang around a little bit longer. They create a better benefit. So even though you've probably heard of turmeric and curcumin and ginger, they all kind of come from the same family, you've probably heard about them a ton. If you're not actively taking them, there are so many benefits that you're missing out on, and it's so simple. You can take them in a supplement, or you can use them in herbs. You can put them in your food, right? Have this be a go-to spice. Have some ground ginger, have some turmeric, have this to be something that you add to, your stir fries. You can do turmeric teas. It doesn't always have to be adding a supplement, but I want you to be mindful of choosing, right, to add more turmeric or curcumin and more ginger when you're cooking, when you're eating, when you're consuming things, because they have a tremendous anti-inflammatory benefit. And I would call that one preventative. I want you thinking about adding turmeric and ginger all the time, as much as you can, to keep inflammation low. You can use it in higher doses when you need it, but at the couple I'm about to mention, I would probably prefer if you need a big, like anti-inflammatory dose. Turmeric should be something you're thinking about all the time, ongoing. So don't forget to add turmeric to things. And if you don't love it, if you don't love the flavor of it, or you don't know how to cook with it, you absolutely can supplement it with it. There are great supplements that have it in there, but you don't have to, right? There's plenty of beautiful food sources too. Which brings us to, and we have 2 left. I know I'm giving you a lot to think about, but resveratrol. I love resveratrol, and it is one of the things that has been shown the most to decrease those eosinophils, which is the immune reaction. Resveratrol is a very powerful antioxidant. It decreases the eosinophils, and it's actually the one that has been shown to help reduce the symptoms, allergic rhinitis, itchy eyes, all of the actual symptoms, the quickest out of any of the other supplements. So even though they are all beneficial, resveratrol for the acute symptoms tends to be the most beneficial. Now, luckily, we can blend some of these together. We'll talk about blends in a second. But knowing that for the immune piece, the eosinophil piece, if you ever go to your doctor and they do even just your simple CBC, which most people get, they check your eosinophils. If those are elevated, resveratrol will be such a beautiful thing for you to add long-term to make sure those eosinophils are calm before going into allergy season, right? Most of you have a CBC somewhere, pull it back out. Look at your eosinophils. Maybe they're not fully out of range, but are they lingering on the higher end of range, right? Are you more active in that area? These are all things that you can do to prevent and keep those nice and calm and quiet so that you don't have as big of a reaction. So specifically for the actual symptoms, the sinus stuff, the eyes, the itching, resveratrol is beautiful for that. I also love resveratrol because it's very neuroprotective. It's great to protect like brain function. It's a great antioxidant. It protects cell health. There's so many good things that resveratrol can do. So you can't go wrong adding that and then getting multiple benefits from one thing. And then lastly, I specifically want to talk about this one because it helps with the breathing piece of the puzzle. So if you or your kids are someone who gets more of like the asthma, the tight chest, the trouble breathing, that's more how your allergies manifest. Boswellia, which is it's a frankincense family, but Boswellia is the most effective for the breathing piece of the puzzle. So if that's your typical symptom and it's hard to breathe, you get wheezy, you get asthma, that's your allergy manifestation, Boswellia is going to be your best choice. I would still combine it with some of the other ones, right? Because we want to calm the histamine, we want to support the eosinophils, but for the breathing piece of the puzzle, that Boswellia is phenomenal. So asthma related, breathing related, that's going to be your go-to. Let me recap that quickly before we go on to my last pointer. So we always want to know our vitamin D levels. We want to optimize those. That's across the board. Be mindful of that all year long. Specifically for histamine response, quercetin and Nettles, I'm going to put some links down here. I use a blend called Htese that has both of those together. I like to blend these as much as possible. So most of the things that we just mentioned, you can get in 2 different supplements, right? You don't have to get 6 different things. The Htese is really beneficial for the histamine response, right? So the quercetin and the Nettles, it does have some resveratrol in there, things that really help calm histamines, versus the anti-inflammatories like the turmeric, the resveratrol, the Boswellia. There's another product called Inflammatone. If you've worked with me, we've probably had to take that at some point because it's one of my favorites to reduce inflammation. But Inflammatone is great for allergy season. It has the turmeric, it has the resveratrol, it has the Boswellia. So in 2 products, you're getting support for all of the things that could potentially be flaring up with your allergies. So I'll throw those links below. We do have a discount through the month of April since it's allergy season. If you use the code allergy10, you get 10% off. But also if you just want to go check them out and look at what's in them and see what the different ingredients are, I'm going to put that link for you guys to look there and know that you have 2 weeks to get that discount on the allergy bundle. And if you are an allergy sufferer, I highly recommend adding it in. It will make a tremendous difference. You can try just one of the products, you can get both of them, whatever you feel comfortable starting with, but they're really, really effective. And it's what I give myself, my kids all through allergy season to make sure we're supporting not only our inflammation, but our histamines and our eosinophils at the same time as making sure we're really diligent about anti-inflammatory foods and filtering the air in the house. For me, those are my go-tos. If I'm good about that, I am on top of it. I've planned for it. I know that we have kind of our process in place. Everybody's allergy stays nice and calm. There are some years that we're busy and I don't think about it. I'm like, oh crap, it's like May already and I didn't do anything. And those are the years that we typically have more allergy symptoms. So I can tell a very big difference when we're on top of it versus not. So just be a little bit preventative with these things, but they're also highly effective, right? If you're already mid-allergy flare, adding them now is still going to give you benefit, but ultimately for next year, be prepared, have some stuff on hand, start earlier. That helps tremendously. Last thing, and if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll come back to those in just a second. But the last one is a good nasal rinse. You have to get the allergens out of where they get stuck in the body, right? So having an actual flush of your sinuses through allergy season, you can do it a couple times a week. You can do it every day. There are a couple of different ways you can do this, but you do need a physical flushing. The stuff that gets stuck in there that causes the symptoms, you need to make sure that that's moving out consistently. to get the better results from everything else we just talked about, right? If allergens are sitting in your sinus passages, if they're stuck in there, it's going to be a lot harder to minimize those symptoms. So there are a couple of different ways you can do a sinus rinse, right? You can do a neti pot. Most people know what that is. That's perfectly acceptable. You can add different things to your neti pots. You can do the saline solution. You can add things like xylitol to your neti pot. You can add grapefruit seed extract to your neti pot. Both of those are great to actually get the pathogens out. So if you have a neti pot and you haven't been using it, pull it out, start using it again. Or you can get, my favorite one, it's called the clear spray, and it's with an X. I've done some videos on this before too, but it's XLEAR, clear, but with an X. And it's a nasal, it's an all natural. There's no chemicals in it. There's no medicines in it. It's xylitol, it's grapefruit seed extract, has a couple of other ingredients in there, but doing that several times a week. Again, you want the physical flushing out of your nose. So a neti pot, a nasal rinse, or doing a nasal spray like the clear consistently helps tremendously. If you have kids that will not do that and you just can't get them to do that, even getting them in like a steam shower, right? Like putting the shower on really hot, having them stand in there, anything that's going to help kind of flush things out of the nose, letting the nose run. You want it out, right? Better out than in is my motto for most things. Bowel movement, sinuses, gunk, infections, whatever. You want it moving out. When it gets stuck in, it's going to cause more symptoms. So don't forget, in addition to keeping your inflammation low from your food, filtering your air, adding some really great herbal supplements, you do physically want to make sure you're moving those allergens out of the body so they don't linger and create more symptoms. That was in 30 minutes, y'all got a solid allergy plan. So I hope that was helpful for anyone who's suffering with those issues. Let me go back and see. I have several questions on here. Perfect topic. Yep. Great. Someone else, healing kids' allergies. 2 kids, high eosinophil numbers with GI. Yep. If they have high eosinophils, yes, we're talking inflammation. There's things that you can add easily to decrease that eosinophil load. The last 2 supplements were Resveratrol, Resveratrol. Spelling out loud always makes me nervous. Boswellia, Boswellia. Boswellia. I hope that was right. Mulin, yeah, I love Mulin. So there's so many other ones I could have added to this list. I was just trying to go like tried and true, easiest things to find, but also a really great option. Okay to take while pregnant. I'd have to double check on that. Nettles, there's a little bit of controversy. Not that I feel like it's dangerous, but there's not enough research supporting that you could take it. So potentially I wouldn't do that one. In pregnancy, I always prefer to go like single herb. So just turmeric or just quercetin. Both of those 2 I feel 100% comfortable with. You might want to go more single herbs than blends just to be safe. Yes, we are in Texas, and Texas is allergy crazy. So I feel you there. I'm going to post the links below as soon as the video's done. Excellent. Good. Well, I'm glad this was helpful. If you have more questions, I'll come back and check it. Everything I talked about, I'll post some links to. If you have extra things that you want to add or things that you love for allergy season, I'd love for you to share those with me too. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'll post all these links and I'll see you back next week.